Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. This video is part of a 10 video series where I show you how to analyze data using pivot tables and charts in Excel. I will start by how to prepare your data, create your first pivot table. I will show you in detail how to customize the table, in detail how to sort, filter and group. Everything you need to know to manage the source data, move and copy your tables, how you can use interactive pivot charts, slicers and timelines to visualize your data, how to put everything together in an interactive dashboard, and last but not least, how to save your dashboard, pivot tables and charts as templates and reuse them again. While creating the dashboard, I recommend having following sheets. Sheet 1, raw data. Keep the data unformatted. You will not use it anyway, and there is no need to slow Excel down with unnecessary formatting. The second sheet is for pivot tables. This is where you place all your pivot tables with 10 columns spaced in between. The third sheet is for layout planning and sample layouts. This is where you list what you want to visualize and decide for the width and height. Sheet 4 is for dashboard and presentation. Sheet 5 is for explanation. In this sheet you leave notes for yourself and other users on how the dashboard is built and how to use it. Believe me, after a year you will forget the detail you know now. Once your dashboard is finished, you can hide sheet 1, 2 and 3. Keep only the dashboard presentation and explanation. Step 1. Before building a dashboard, it is important to decide which data you must have. Which data would be nice to have, but not a must. How the data should be presented, which presentation is static and which is dynamic. In other words, which one are interactive with a slicer or a timeline. Step 2. Once you have clarity on the mentioned topic, it's time to create a rough layout. So let's assume I decided to have these data and info in my dashboard. You can use a piece of paper, Microsoft Note or Excel to visualize how the data is presented, whether in a table, chart or infograph. The possible width and height of the presentation. I will use a separate Excel sheet, change the layout to landscape in order to match the dashboard shape. Change the view to page layout. This will divide the sheet to multiple pages. On the first page, I will brainstorm and list the data, use shapes to simulate the dashboard. On the second and third page, I will put the puzzle together and decide for the dashboard layout I want. Step 3. Prepare the puzzle pieces, dashboard's elements, pivot charts, pivot tables, icons, slicer, and filter. Step 4. Place the dashboard. Put the puzzle pieces together. Step 5. Fine-tune and finalize. So let's begin implementing. Since I already brainstormed on which charts and other dashboards elements I want, as well as brainstorm how the rough layout might look like, I will start creating the dashboard. I will delete the first one and start from scratch. I will add a new sheet where I will place my dashboard. I will adjust the column widths of the cells because I will use the cells borders to align and position my dashboard elements. I will create my first pivot chart for the monthly savings. A filter is applied to the pivot table. You can see that due to the filter symbol placed on the top left of the table. I will remove the filter. Select within the table, go to the Pivot Table Analyze tab and insert a pivot chart. Since I have no template that matches the presentation I want, I will insert a new clustered column chart. I will remove the field buttons placed on the chart. The field buttons are useful if you want to filter your data dynamically. I will do that by using a timeline and a slicer in later stages. You can move any element of the chart. Select and move or resize. By clicking on the plus button, a list containing options to edit and manage the chart elements will drop down. When I hover over an element, a triangle will appear giving further options to format the chart elements. I will uncheck the grid lines options to remove them. The pivot chart and pivot table are connected. A filter applied to the pivot table will be applied to the chart and vice versa. I will remove the data I don't want to show on the chart. Next, I will insert a timeline and adjust the grouping to quarters. I will repeat the process for the top 10 expenses chart. Select within the pivot table and add a clustered bar chart. I will clean up the chart, remove the unwanted elements. I will use the plus button to add labels to the bars. You can always go to the Design tab and use the Add Chart Elements button. When you hover over the options, a preview will be shown on the chart. I will repeat again the same steps for my third chart. I will insert this time 2 slicers at once instead of a timeline. Now that my charts and slicers are created, I will move them to the dashboard sheet. Select one of the elements, press Ctrl plus A to select all of them, Ctrl plus X to cut them, and Ctrl V to paste them onto the dashboard sheet. Now I will go back to my layout planning sheet. Since I have a rough idea on which elements to place above each other, I will start by positioning roughly the dashboard elements. Decide if I want to stick with the layout or change it. Next, it's time to insert the descriptive headings. I will add a rectangular shape, format it, and type in the titles of the chart. I will copy the shape and paste it above the corresponding pivot charts. Now I will start with the fine-tuning of the positions. While fine-tuning the position of the elements, I will fast forward to keep this video length under 20 minutes. I will press Alt while positioning the shapes. This way the borders of the shape will snap to the grid. This applies to the rectangular shapes, the pivot charts, and the slicers. I will use arrows to have more control when moving my shapes. You can use at this stage the Arrange option available in Excel to align objects and decide which ones come to the front and which ones to the back. Now I will customize, format, and position the slicer. I will increase the number of columns to 3 columns. I will bring the date slicer to the front, making it visible above the shape. Under slicer settings, I will hide the date header and get rid of items with no data. Now some fine-tuning in between. I will snap all borders of the shape and chart to the grid, thus aligning them together. I will hide the timeline under the shape and remove the scroll bar and further elements I don't want. Next, instead of inserting another type of chart, pie chart for example, I will insert a dynamic screenshot for 3 of the pivot tables. I will select within the pivot table, press Ctrl A, go to my dashboard sheet, and insert a dynamic picture. Any change I make to the pivot table will be updated in the picture. When doing that, don't forget that if you change the shape of the pivot table with the filter or by moving the fields to another area, the dynamic picture will be useless, since it will only cover a part of the new pivot table shape. A pie chart is better suited for this case. I will position the pictures and place titles in rectangular shapes above them. This will take a couple of minutes, so I will again fast forward. I will connect the date slicer to the charts and tables. Since my pivot tables and charts are named, I can identify them and check the checkbox next to them to connect them to the slicer. I will repeat the same process for the category slicer and connect the related elements. Now we are almost finished with the dashboard. I will next hide the grid line on the sheet by unchecking the option under the View tab. I will hide the sheets I don't want and keep the dashboard sheet and the explanation sheet. I will select one object, press Ctrl A to select all elements on the sheet and group them together. This way you reduce the risk of moving one element by mistake. Nevertheless, you can still use the slicer, although it belongs to the group. Now I will select the group, right-click on it and go to the size and properties. I will check the option Don't Move or Size with Cells. Now that everything is done, you can format everything at once. Go to the page layout and choose a theme you like. Choose a set of colors and fonts you like. There are tons of options. I hope you found what you were looking for in this tutorial. If yes, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to this channel for more videos. Check out other Excel video tutorials by Swag Academy in this playlist. Thanks for watching.